welcome everyone to tea o'clock, well, maybe cocktail hour o'clock. But we wanted to make sure that Klari didn't have to get up too early. So it is because here I am in London at 6 o'clock. And Klari is on the West Coast in her home and studio in San Francisco. So we welcome you to another Zoom with Cynthia, Zoom into 2021 with Cynthia. And I am absolutely delighted to be having the discussion today with my great friend and longtime represented artist in our gallery, Klari Reis. We met at her degree show in 2004. And I also met her mom, who's on the call. And we started working together in 2005. So it's been quite an interesting collaboration and traveling together and lots of adventures, both here in the UK, in Europe, all over America, where we have exhibited Klari Reis's work with her, sometimes being present, and it's been fantastic. And this is our last Zoom, that last Collect Zoom. So we've been participating in the online, the first online Collect Art Fair this year, because of the pandemic, in conjunction with Artsy. And we're delighted to say that this is Klari's second year at Collect, because last year Klari made her debut at Collect at Somerset House, which was pretty incredible, pretty amazing. I mean, Klari's work figured on an entire wall over a fireplace. It was just, phenomenal. And this year I have the benefit of behind me of a 60 piece hypo behind me from Klari. And I think what we can do now is maybe, Klari, how about you take us on a wee bit of a tour?
Sure.
And talk about your practice and what inspires you, and show us your amazing studio and home. And then I'm going to ask some questions. And then at the end, everyone, we're going to have a Q&A. So don't worry, you'll be able to get some question time in with Klari as well. Over to you, Klari.
Hi, everyone. So this is my studio space, and my husband and I renovated an auto garage. It took about 6 years to renovate, but I've been in this studio for 3 years now, and it really is a dream space for me. I still can't believe I'm working in here, but this is the entry. And then this is new work on the walls. We call this the gallery space. This is Alyssa. Hi, how are you? Alyssa's helping me with graphic work. And then this door opens up to the outside for fresh air. We've got a gorgeous day today.
Oh, wow. Beautiful.
And these are experimental pieces outside. These have been here for about years, but just seeing how they age.
I think we're losing
on the wall out, and then
connection.
The rooms. So, I'll go a little slower.
Wow, that is amazing.
So these are smaller pieces. This is
Are you able to talk a little tiny bit, Klari, about that amazing installation with the jars as well?
Sure. So this is an apothecary rack, and originally it's an antique rack that I found. That this project was done quite a few years ago, and it was exhibited in San Francisco. There's the Exploratorium, which is a hands-on kids science museum, and when it first reopened at their new location, they exhibited this. but inside each, I considered each to be a different experiment of the mixing of epoxy with different dyes and pigments, and looking at how the different temperature reactions affected the plastics as well as the glass bottle itself. And
Wow. So it's an installation artwork and a bit of a scientific experiment at the same time.
Yeah, I think most of my work is that way. And then one thing that the kids museum loved about this is I have little hidden gems inside of the bottles. So let's see if I can find one here. But there's little hidden creatures inside. Let's see. There's a little plastic baby inside this one. There's a frog. There's a frog there.
Oh, good, great. I love it.
Like you would see in a science museum,
Yes.
the glass jars filled with preserving liquid.
Yes, absolutely. The specimens.
This is my prep room. We call it prep room, where different projects in different stages, including my kids' projects. This is a kid table. So the kids working on their projects here. And this is a new sculptural wall piece. We're touching up the details on this on the sides.
Can we go close in? Now this is, okay, so maybe explain a tiny bit, if you wouldn't mind, Klari, about these panel pieces. And because you've started to do these in 2018, 19. Was it 18 or 19?
2019, I think.
Yes.
First, smaller works. I was calling them pods at first before pods became a thing. Recent with groupings, but they're. I wanted to do something a little bit more sculptural. Something I'm always looking for something new and different than what I've seen and what's out there. And these are designed in the computer first, and really they're put together in a really interesting way where each piece is its own piece, and then they're glued onto a backing. So it looks as if it could be precarious structurally, but it's not at all. It's all very solid in one piece. But this is probably maybe my 10th one, and definitely the largest I've created thus far.
Because we debuted them at Miami in 2019.
Yes. And I feel I'm a little more cellular over time, more of the cellular shapes, whereas those first pieces were, I think I was still exploring the idea. I still love them, but they were just a little bit more maybe architectural and a little bit less.
Okay, and so this is what, and so this series is called what now? Is it called the panel pieces? What are they called as a series?
Sculptural wall pieces.
Yeah, sculptural wall pieces. And we're going to be showing those, well, we have been showing those, and we'll continue hopefully in real life soon again, but of course everything is online, and they remind me a bit of retro, Klari, the colors.
A little.
And can we maybe talk a little bit about your colors, and maybe can we go to maybe could we go in front of your hypo now, your hypo?
Sure.
And I would like to ask you some questions, if I can, about your inspiration, because you graduated from City and Guilds in 2004. You received your master's there, but your BA was in from UC Davis, and
yeah,
in architecture. And but from very early on, you were looking at science. And can you maybe tell us a little bit about that and what inspired you?
Sure, yeah. So I studied architectural design at Davis, and Well, originally I was an art kid originally. I think from a young age, I knew I wanted to be an artist. And I first started out studying art for my first 2 years of college, and then got scared about how am I going to make a living? How am I going to do this? And transferred schools to UC Davis, where I studied architecture, and loved that some of the time. And I didn't love working on AutoCAD all the time and being in front of the computer all the time. But I did get to work at a big architectural firm called Skidmore, Owens and Merrill when they were working on the San Francisco International Airport. And that's where I originally saw and got to help pick colors for the flooring there, for the terrazzo flooring, and looking at the different tones that they were choosing for the different designs of the flooring. And in that flooring, they were using an epoxy, so a shiny, durable material mixed in with the cement and rock for the floor. And I remember also seeing artists who were just starting to use resins as varnish for their paintings. Mm-hmm. And I just really was interested in that. And I loved the shiny, durable plastic surface. And was always painting on the side of working full time, and dreaming of being an artist one day. And then I ended up applying to graduate schools and did my master's degree in London. And there, I think I was still exploring oil paintings and acrylic paintings, painting itself, but really didn't have much of the formal training because I studied architectural design. I took some classes as a kid, but didn't have the proper lessons on how you paint in oil paint and that sort of thing. So I think because of that, I felt more free to explore other things. But I felt as if my classmates were experts in these materials and I didn't know what I was doing. So I was going to try unusual materials, and really that worked. So using
and your initial material, your materiality was aluminum.
Yeah, I love painting on. Yep. Yeah. Also a different
steel. And did you use aluminum? You use steel? You use
wood panels? Mm-hmm. Canvas doesn't quite work well for me because of the dip that often happens, and I work flat on the table, so a flat wooden surface. So I loved the metal showing through those paintings in aluminum, and always painted cellular images. So images of cells reacting within a petri dish, within the body, and images seen under the microscope. And that started before I went to graduate school. I was in my early 20s. I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, which was really hard and confusing. And it took a while for them to figure out what it was. And I was sick with it for quite a while, but have surprisingly been completely fine for quite a long time, 10 years or so now, which is great. Not 100%, but pretty great medications, which is fantastic.
And so in the early period, when you were studying and finishing your degree at City and Guilds and initially working as an artist, many of your artworks had biological and medicinal names.
Yeah, so they were all. A lot of drug names. So my first 100 paintings I named after different drugs, because there was so much of a trial and error with trying to get medications to work for me, and also the differences between how the US and the UK treated Crohn's disease. So, and I knew I was allergic to this random medicine that I knew that was called something else in the US versus the UK. So I had to really kind of understand what was best for me, and being able to verbalize that to who was helping me with Crohn's disease. So just trying to understand the medications and what exactly they were doing to my cells. And I had a fantastic doctor who let me use the labs at King's College, because I was at St. Thomas's Hospital, and they let me use the labs there. And he knew I was also in an art degree program, cells. So he was really beneficial in helping me find these images.
And that was why the first solo exhibition we had, the title was Hope.
Yeah.
And then and so many people that purchased your work said, you know, it's like having medicine for our walls, and you know, healing through art, which couldn't be more relevant today, I must say. So
Yeah.
then so you know, the transition then between using because you've always used interesting materiality, but then the transition occurred to using sort of the tools of science, which is the Petri dishes. So if I'm just sort of guiding you to the work behind you and the work behind me, can you maybe talk a little bit about that and why they were named typos and the installations?
Yeah, sure. So it took a while. It probably took 2 years to get it quite right. I remember, Cynthia, the first exhibit you had of them, I painted them on plexiglass discs. And I couldn't quite get the hardware perfect with those. And so over time, trial and error with different hardware and just getting it right. So basically what happens, the plastic that I paint with is endothermic. So it heats up and then cools down. And as it heats up, it expands. And what's great about the plexiglass Petri dishes is the epoxy adheres to the Petri dishes, and it just becomes a solid painting. And then for the hardware, I can put the hardware in the back and have the Petri dish be just quite.
Take one down for me.
Yeah,
so
but
take one down.
there's threaded steel rods on the back here, and the rods get screwed right into the drywall, and then the dish gets screwed right onto the threaded steel rod. So I can show you here.
And I have one I'm showing and telling as well. So here we
Oh, good. I don't think I can hold the phone and do it at the same time.
Yeah. So this is yeah, and if you can show like the different sculptural depth, that's what's so amazing about the artworks and their installations. So here's a real Petri dish, as everyone can see. And it has on the back, it has this hardware that goes into a rod. And the rods are of different depths. So it is it's a painted sculpture again. It's an installation. But the one that Klari is showing us in her home studio, that's 150 individually, uniquely made Petri dishes. And the one behind me is 60. And Klari calls this an exploding 60, as opposed to, right? As opposed to a perfect circumference of a 60. And then can I just ask you something interesting? So that one's like a very flat Petri dish, but Petri dishes have different formats to them, correct? So some of them have a lip on them.
Oh, right. Yep. So I use both the top and the bottom of the Petri dish. So in a lab, you'd have the top and the bottom that close up the dish. And so I use both. So sometimes the top is thinner. Typically the top is thinner, the bottom is a thicker dish. Yeah.
And then how, because I think our viewers would be very interested to know about this. Every single one of your Petri dishes is its own artwork and unique. The process, how much is planned, how much is random, what's the material, and why do you get these unique colors? How does that happen?
It is very much of a scientific process in that it's reactionary to the environment. So if I put cold plastic into warm plastic, I can get different reactions to occur. And just over time with working with the material for 15 years or so, I've understood how it goes. And I don't know if I could teach somebody. It's a little bit like cooking. It's a little bit like doing this and that. And when I add a lot of white pigment, let's say, or a lot of red pigment, it cools the epoxy down and I can get different reactions to occur. If I wait 45 minutes for the dish to gel up to get thicker, I know that I can get the next layer of paint to float on top. And then if I use a hair dryer, I can get things to spread out and have more of that sort of lacy snowflake effect.
And sometimes, like, here's one that is opaque, and then I'm asking, a technical question. How can some be opaque and some be translucent, transparent? And then of course that's amazing, because then you've got those unique shadows as well.
Yeah, I love the shadows. So I when putting together the installation, I definitely try to create or curate a balance. So there's about 50-50 of both. I think the darker dishes and the solid dishes give the piece some weight, so it doesn't look like glass. I think glass can sometimes have a very light, fragile feeling to it, where adding some of the thickness and the depth and some weight to the darker pieces give it a different feel. And so sometimes it looks quite easy to put the pieces together, but really it takes hours to really curate one piece just to get the balance of the transparent, solid artworks, as well as the color balance. So making sure there isn't too much red in one area, and that that different tones separated from each other.
And then you've done commissions though that are say uniquely, like you've done all tones of red, you've done tones of yellow, you've done tones of blue,
which
noir.
Yeah, there's touches of all colors really in a red installation, but overall feeling it is like red or a highlighted color.
Or blue. And then you've done some noir, black and white, which are very like Art Deco in some ways.
And
a
little bit more scientific.
And then I guess a lot of people, well, of course, people ask you all the time, but they also ask me, well, what is in this ingredients? What is Klari Reis using to make her artwork? And you don't, obviously some of it is secret, but can you talk a little bit about, because your use of pigments, for instance, I think would be interesting to the audience, because you're using pigments, which is old-fashioned, isn't it? Very old-fashioned, but then yet you're using something that is so high-tech in a way, which is the epoxy. But I'm not probably answering, I don't know what I'm talking about, but you do. So tell us a little.
Yeah, I started out first dyeing the epoxy with raw pigments. When I was in England, for example, there was a lot available, which was wonderful, just old techniques of oil painting and egg tempera painting. And so you could find fantastic raw pigments quite easily. Here it's a little bit harder to be able to go and shop and look at raw pigments, but you can get them. I don't use them quite as much. Sometimes I do, especially for metallics, but because I'm constantly doing clear coats and in the same room, I want to make sure not to get dust or a fine pigment in the air. So I'm liking more using it's a pigment gel, which is something that they have at like Home Depot. So basically, if you go to Home Depot or a hardware store and you say, I want to match my blue sweater for my wall color, they'll use these dyes to pigment acrylic paint for your wall color. So basically they're raw pigment gels, which are color stable and produced in a industrial way. So it's a strange thing that you don't really buy at the art supply shop, but they're only supplied in primary colors, because typically it's a machine that mixes the colors, and it's a computer system that mixes the colors to get the color that they're trying to match. So anyway, I use their raw pigment, my own colors in a cup.
So is it harder for you to do, say, something that's very pastel? Is the primary colors the more striking color, the more darker, not darker, but more intense color? Is that something that because of the process, could you do things that are more pastel-y?
I think my colors are super vibrant because of the medium, because of the epoxy being shiny and clear, and it's the pigments I think are secondary. I don't really use the primary colors that much. I always like mixing my own colors. Sometimes I'll use a little bit of the straight up red or the straight up blue, but I like mixing tones to get more unique colors, and by just adding different shades of white or black to those, then I can get my colors.
Wow. So can you now maybe move, if you wouldn't mind, and maybe while you're moving, I'm going to ask Anastasia to put up a slide of the new things you're doing, your experiments with the new larger Petri dishes.
Yeah,
So
sure.
maybe Anastasia, if you could just put up just to show quickly. Yeah. So and then Klari, yeah, these are really, so this is something very new, and maybe then do we go back to the big screen so everybody can see Klari in the studio? And wow, so can you talk to us about this, because I know that you had experimented a few years ago, and they were just so heavy it didn't work out. So
yeah,
I remember that. So
yeah, a few years ago I got giant acrylic discs made, and they ended up being 145 pounds. And then at the time my studio was on a second floor, it was tricky. But these acrylic discs were actually a commission for a project where there's going to be lights in the back. So they're going to be lit from the back for a lobby in Southern California. So a biotech entryway to a building. And so it was definitely a push to try something new. And so there's going to be diffused light behind that. But I can definitely see these going in other directions. So
interesting. Yeah. So you don't. So this is and this is, isn't it? So for your practice, so if you are being pushed also by biotech, and because of where you are, and science, and both clients and organizations that are asking you to do various things in a scientific way, and so for you don't know where this is going to go.
Oh, this new? No, I don't. Yeah. It's a matter of trying to decide how far I want to take different things. So also during pandemic time and being home so much more, I felt I was taking care of my plants and feeling very comforted by my upstairs in my home. I have a lot of plants, and feeling comforted by the botanical atmosphere, and I have a plant wall upstairs. And so I really started this new series of plants, which have been really fun. And I see these going in. These are really beautiful. That's very Rousseauian,
Yeah. I think without the human or animal. Yeah.
Yeah, tigers.
Without tigers. But okay, can you just go up to that one closer, because if you can, what is the material, Klari, in that? In
this piece. So
yes.
All material. So it's epoxy on a wood panel.
Oh, it's wood. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a wood panel here. But I'm able to get the different textures by using, by working with the epoxy. The longer I mix it, the thicker it becomes. So just knowing that when to use it. And if I wait too long, then it becomes hard in the cup. So it's really using the material when it's in different states. So when
can I ask a question, because I see a lot of figuration in these works.
Yeah.
So obviously, so vegetation, botanical influences. So because of the challenge of you is drawing drawing in a figurative sense. How are you getting those shapes? Like, are you practice drawing first, and is it a lot of experimentation? Do you have to throw things away? And
yes, so I've been doing a lot on paper first, and it is experimentation. Sometimes I really hope to try to make a certain mark, and it'll end up being too chunky or too thick and not the way I wanted it to turn out. And but yeah, it's all very much timing and when to allow two different paint mixtures to flow together, and understanding how that works. These pieces I see as being also still very cellular in their form. Like, they definitely feel as if they have a cellular circular theme in the way that my other artwork does, which I love. And so they still feel like,
it's gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
Oh my God, but do you draw on, are you drawing on the surface, or you just you use your preparatory drawings and then you're just going for it?
Yeah, so in my painting room, in that image that you have of me where I'm holding up the dishes over my eyes,
yes,
behind,
yeah,
I just hope I don't want to lose.
Okay.
Yeah, you can kind of see that here. I don't want to lose the internet, but those are some of the preparing.
Oh, okay, so those are your drawings.
Yeah.
Okay. But you will then, knowing what I know about your practice, you will experiment and you will have to throw things away, or you'll have to redo them, because because there is some randomness, isn't there, that can't be helped sometimes.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
Temperature, I don't know, what am I trying to ask? Like, just the way the process works.
Yeah, rainy days and too much humidity in the air really affect the paint as well, which can be tricky.
And so this is so this is your newest series, besides the gigantic what I would say the gigantic petri dishes. Now, those are not real petri dishes, though, are they? So
no,
no, you've created them. Okay, so how do you created them to look like petris, but
yeah, so they're on a plexiglass back.
I see. Okay.
And now I'm just working on getting I think I know how I'm going to do it, but a clear eyelet hook on the back so that they can still hang a little bit away from the wall, so you can see their transparent.
And then the light will be there through it. And then there's so maybe okay, then I have another question, because and maybe Anastasia, you could bring up the hanging, the Garden of Babylon, hanging Babylon. Yeah. And if you wouldn't, is that, because that's another project that you're working on? Yes,
it's an exciting project that I'm working on. So basically, these would also be petri dishes like what you see behind us, but I'm going to be making them thicker so that I can actually thread them like in the way that a necklace would be threaded, but large scale and hung from the ceiling. Wow.
So I'm kind of, yeah, I'm kind of hoping that one of these might make its way to Miami in December. That would, I don't know, it's just amazing. And is the idea to also walk through it?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to be made so it's going to be very durable. So I think it would be pretty fun to allow people to touch. But of course, we wouldn't want somebody tripping over it during the art fair. You know?
Yeah. So you can, okay, we can take that down now. So we go back. So, but it seems to me that kind of your process as an artist is you're constantly experimenting and creating, and it's do you feel that it's sort of endless of, how do you like in terms of inspiration for where you're going forward, say over the next 5 years? Do you think that, because science and is there's so much here, and there's so much of what you're doing with your art, do you think you're just constantly going to be experimenting and doing new mediums, and where do you think you're going?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. And even over the time that we've known each other, the technology of epoxies has changed so much, and paint technology has changed so much, which has been really amazing and interesting to see all the different developments and options. And yeah, another experiment I've been doing in the other room is looking at how epoxies soak into canvas and find in some of those, and you can get the different reactions and different surface textures that happen.
And right, so it's kind of endless what you're doing, and you're juggling you're also your family life
Yes,
with this.
Well, is that my home is upstairs, and that's been new as of 3 years. So just getting used to that, being able to sneak downstairs at night and work a little bit on something, but also being able to run upstairs, cook lunch for husband and family who are my husband, who's working from home now, and that's been great. Yeah, and so just trying to get out of the building has been a challenge, with no gyms being open, but everything I love is here in the one building.
So let me ask you then, how because it's the obvious question, how has the year that we've had, because we've just been through the year, because last year at around this time the world started going into lockdown, and as more and more of the COVID crisis unfolded, how do you think that's affected your practice in both positive, negative, or positive? What do you think? How has it affected you?
A little bit of both. At the beginning of lockdown, I really felt driven to make artworks about what was happening. I feel as if people are more aware of I think people are more educated these days too, just reading news stories about what is happening inside of our bodies, and what's happening with how our immune system works. So when everything was first starting to close down, I started making paintings for, I called them healthy cell paintings for anybody who needed them. And I did get a couple of requests from strangers, which was fantastic. So sending out some free healthy cell paintings, which were some large Petri dish paintings, and just thinking positively about what's happening in our body and scientific technology, and what and body and its mechanisms to cope.
Wow, that's right. And you've presumably you've obviously spent a lot more time with your family, but a lot less time out and travel as and but in a way, did it give you a little bit more, in some ways, more freedom to do some of these experimentations, because the pressure on you is less to go out, to be pushed to see, marketing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it has been really interesting how, I wasn't in a rush to pack and ship for the next art show or art fair. There was definitely more of a focus on the artwork itself, which was pretty wonderful. And it was like a forced change, as it has been for everyone. want to do it again.
And I'm going to now, I think we have a lot of questions coming in. So I think I'm going to, if it's okay, we're going to have a few questions for the next like 10, 15 minutes or so. And then maybe at the end, we can talk a little bit about some of your future plans, some of our future plans, and then wrap it up because I know everyone is very busy. So Anastasia, do you, how do we do these questions?
I will just read the questions that have come so far. And while you answer those, you and Klari answer those, I encourage our wonderful guests and viewers to proceed with asking more in the chat. So there's been a question about the tools that Klari uses to lay in the pigment gels to get specific shapes. Richard Herbert was asking whether you use syringes or spatulas, Klari.
No spatulas, some syringes for dyes. So for getting some different reactions, I'll use more of like a pipette to drip dye into an epoxy. I don't use spatulas.
Thank you. Yeah, Georgina is asking whether you use different types of resin for different purposes and whether you prefer quick setting or slow.
I use 3 different kinds and 3 different variants of, so fast setting, medium, and slow setting, and slow for clear coats that I don't have to wait for. So clear coats over the top of paintings, final clear coats, I'll use a slow, and fast drying or hardening epoxy for having more control to allow for different shapes or different textures to occur.
Thank you. And then Marty Epcarter is saying, the backstory of your work is fascinating and helps me to connect with it conceptually, not only formally. So thank you for that. My question is about the Petri dishes as a material. Did you ever have real organic material in these, or were they always epoxy and plastic pigment? But I think you've covered this already.
In the studio, always epoxy. But when I was doing experimentation in labs in here in South San Francisco or in London, we used real specimens.
Trevor Simon says he would love to mention to you the merits seen in these works by people in finance.
So what was that again?
Trevor Simon says, I would like to mention to Klari the merits seen in these works by people in finance. Trevor, would you like to unmute yourself and elaborate on that?
Yeah, yeah.
Hi, can you hear me okay? Yeah, hi, Klari. Nice to meet you. I'm in London.
Hi.
Hi. So
hi, Trevor.
Hi, thank you for your time. Just wanted to pass on to you that I first saw these works in Shanghai in 2007, and it was distinctive because obviously the works are captivating, but unusually at art fairs, people take pictures of the material, of the item, of the object, but they seldom put themselves in front of it. And almost without exception in that particular show, hundreds of people came, stood in front of it was I think a 300 dish hypochondria installation, and they took pictures with it. It was remarkable. And for the people in finance, geeks like me, it's the link between the micro and the macro. You step back from your work, you see a curated color set, but you have obviously customized this at the inch by inch per dish, which speaks very much to how we look at the world, particular stocks, shares, very granular detail, and we step back, try to not go mad. And this is very reassuring. You see this you see your works in, I'm sure you know, hedge funds in London, people that I trade with, and it's been an honor to have one at some point, but it's the link between the cellular level and the wider world. It's just such a relief to see that captured in a safe space, meaning the ring or the shape that you customize the work to. It's very reassuring. It's very helpful.
Wow.
So thank you for that.
Great. Wow.
Thank you so much.
Another
question. Yeah, Cynthia, go on, please. I'm sorry.
No, I see that Piper has artwork behind her. Yeah, looks great, really great. And that
Yes,
happens to be
this is a piece that we bought in Houston at the art fair, and then Klari, we sent pictures of the space where we wanted it, and Klari made a template for us so that it would fit in the space instead of being a perfect circle. And we also have one of the circles on aluminum. I'm working my way over there to show you that. I have to turn on some
Oh,
lights.
wow.
Um, oh shoot,
Oh,
that
it's
didn't
so
work.
great to see you. And it's just, may I say, I know that, we can't do anything about not seeing, people at the moment, but how wonderful is that we have all of you here, that we've met at various places, and Klari's been able to do these incredible things, and hopefully we'll see, we'll be able to see each other in person soon. But wow, this is incredible. I love seeing,
Amazing.
don't you love seeing that? It's, oh yes, fabulous. So Klari, that's one of the ones that you did on aluminum.
I can't see it.
Oh, can you see it? Oh my God, that's gorgeous. Wow, can you see it now?
Mm-mm. I'm only seeing you, Cynthia. Let's see.
Oh, so you need to go into gallery view.
Back to the gallery view. Okay.
Klari, I'll send you the screenshot I've made to the chat. And meanwhile, I will ask another question that came from Christy Masbach. She's asking, she's a huge fan, and she's asking whether you heat the epoxy to pour it in the dish, and how many layers in a typical dish, and do you drag the colors to make the shapes or squirt them?
Some dishes have maybe 3 layers, some have 4, sometimes 5. And it's basically, it depends on if how hot the plastic is that I'm working with. So I can cool it down so let's say I've mixed some epoxy. I can cool it down by putting the cup of epoxy in a cold bucket if I want to use it for longer. But typically I just work with it and trying to work with the 3 different variants that I use. So I'll choose one variant, let's say the faster hardening epoxy, and mix it. And I know that if I wait about 10 minutes or so, I can get thick elements, and I can be able to control it to create a more defined blob or a defined circular shape. And if I have a lot more pigment in that mix, I can, and I wait for it till it's warm and I put it in cooler plastic, I can get the reactions of the cool plastic coming through the warm plastic, if that makes sense. And then I can get things to spread out more if I use a heat gun or a hair dryer to get some of the kind of feathery edge effects.
Is that good? Because Christy, have you managed to hang your beautiful piece yet?
Your blue piece.
Does she know how to unmute herself? Anastasia. What happens?
Yeah, we'll facilitate.
I think really tech. It's very tech. She's trying to talk, but we can't hear her.
I can't unmute.
Oh,
I'm
there
sorry.
you go.
No,
there
you
is.
are unmuted now. We hear you,
Oh,
Christy, yes.
I am delighted. I received the last pieces just about a week or 2 ago, and I have to hire a handyman to come put up the entire piece, but it's going to be in the sunroom right on the lake.
Oh, and we can't wait. It's just so wonderful to see you and to see all of you supporters and collectors and friends of ours, and it's wonderful. There's so many people here that have acquired and collected Klari's work, and we really appreciate it. Wish we could see you more in person, but at least we're seeing with the technology, we're seeing you on Zoom, and it's fabulous. Really. And any other questions? Terry, I bet Terry Cannon, I'm seeing him down there. He's a scientist, so I bet he has a few questions, but maybe not. Hi, Terry. Do you have any questions to ask Klari?
I don't actually, and I
Hi.
can't sit in a place where you can see the fabulous works that I've got, but we've got 4 of yours, and we just moved to a new house where one of the very long ones is actually stretches from the ground floor up to the first floor.
Oh,
And,
fantastic.
so we're really,
Yes.
really enjoying that.
So I will ask all of you wonderful collectors of Klari's work, maybe eventually you could send, so everyone could send some photos, and
would be
if you would like to, and we could do a little collage. It would be great to see. And I see Richard has I see Richard, you have some artwork. I think that is by Klari behind you as well. Beautiful. That's an early piece, I think. Yeah, that's great. And I see Marcel, that you have some, maybe not to show us.
Piper Madland is saying, I hope to be able to get a hanging piece. I love the sketch of the project.
Oh, thank you.
Well, fabulous. Wow, it looks great. And so I think we have to, we have a few more minutes. Any questions? So maybe I can just ask Klari. There's some very exciting things happening in your life, your professional life. Maybe do you want to tell us a little bit about what's happening? We can go back.
Yeah. So a couple weeks ago, we had this Discovery Plus TV channel here filming our house, which was amazing, exciting. Our home upstairs and my studio. It was going to be a program that's going to be on at the end of summer, and it's about home. It's called The Place We Call Home, and it's this building used to be an auto garage, and so it's about that process of the transformation of it from an auto garage to the gallery studio home. And that's going to be, I'm sure I'll post things about it, but that's going to be the end of summer. And I saw a little preview of it, and it seems really fun and fantastic. And this house was for a very long time another art project. We have a collection upstairs, and if anybody's in San Francisco and wants to visit, they're very, very welcome to. But but it was very much a labor of love for about 6 years, trying to get this place ready for us to move in. In San Francisco, there's so many rules and regulations for making sure the building is earthquake safe.
Yeah,
and we had that had to be removed, and so the whole design of it was a long learning process and a lot of fun. But I now have a dream studio, and I can't imagine going anywhere else for a while in terms of moving and everything. And then
I saw it, didn't I? I saw it when it was still a garage.
Yes, yeah, you did. You're like, oh my God, what are you guys doing? But and so this week I'm actually installing at Kaiser Permanente Hospital in Redwood City. And it's really strange and emotional for me, because that was the original location where I was first sick with Crohn's disease. And there's actually the old building behind the new building. So I'm putting artwork on 4 floors in the elevator lobbies of the hospital. And there behind is the deserted old building where I was in I think 2002. But they're going to be demoing that building. So it seems to be some kind of funny full circle.
A little circle. That's so wonderful, Klari. And can I just say that you know, obviously in England as well. So Klari, you've done a lot of projects with science and hospitals, and your work is in the Great Ormond Street Hospital for Children. there's a massive installation at Nuffield in Oxford, at the Autistic Center for Children. And, you know, your work is all over the world. And we're also happy and grateful to be able to show your work and live with your work. It's just fantastic. And I'm just going to say now that where is Klari going next with us? You know, it's been a real privilege and a pleasure to be able to have this work physically here. And even though we couldn't show you at an actual in real life fair, where I guess digital or hybrid, but we will be we'll be going back to Chicago, where you and I had a very successful time in, I think it was 2009, 10, when we did Art Chicago. And I think that was one of the first times you did a massive 150 hypo installation. And we're going to be not live, but doing a special project for Expo Chicago, which will open on a platform called Hook. And that will be going live on the 8th of April. So at least kind of going back to Chicago, but I'm really hoping that we can be together, you know, in Miami, maybe in December. Or
Yeah, I'd love that. That would be wonderful.
and you seem, you know, you're doing so much. And maybe you could just tell, because you also, really quickly, because we have like 2 minutes, didn't you install yourself about 200 pieces on a ship?
Oh, yes, actually it was 1,000 pieces. It was for Royal Caribbean. At the time, it was the largest cruise ship ever made at the time, which was the Oasis of the Seas. And we installed Petri dishes on the ceiling and on the walls. And they had to have special hardware so that people couldn't rip them out of the wall, and that they had to have special fire codes, so they had to be backed by metal. But yes, that was an adventure.
Yeah.
And actually staying on the ship with 2 helpers to install.
Wow, was that the most challenging? I mean, I think you've had some quite challenging installations.
That was a hard one. And then Clemson University, 600 pieces, where it was really well organized. It took about a year to complete, but what was wonderful about it is a lot of there were all the community involvement. So each dish was titled by somebody, one of the students in this facility. And so that was really fun, and being able to put each of these dishes up on their blog and having students chime in with what they wanted to title the pieces, and just really wonderful looking at what other people are seeing in the work and what they are seeing, whether it be biologically referenced or influenced or not at all, which an aspect of the work is getting other people's opinions and seeing what other people how other people use their imagination to see what they see in each image.
Well, we unfortunately, I think we're coming to a close. I think we could talk. Well, you and I definitely could talk for hours. We have in the past, and we will continue, hopefully very soon. But it's just such a pleasure, Klari, seeing you, and thank you for all your wonderful descriptions and, you know, sharing your life and your art with us. And I think I'm just so grateful that we could do this. And thank you, Colette, and thank you, Anastasia, for all you're doing. And thank you to your assistant, Klari, and thank you to Christina, who's here helping. And it's fabulous. We really, 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 I think it was one of the highlights for me. So we hopefully will see you soon. And anyone who has questions, just get in touch, and we'll be a pleasure to answer and assist where we can. But I say bye for now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. There's our